Can you tell us what is baby blues? What is postpartum anxiety? What is postpartum depression?
Anxiety is more about the first thing that we talked about, the uncertain. Am I doing a good job? Am I a good mother? Am I a perfect mother?
If you see these signs in yourself, what would be the first step that you take to get help?
Start finding the right psychologist.
Somebody's listening to this episode for the first time and they have no idea what therapy is and how it can help them in postpartum phase.
Therapy is a safe, confidential space where you can come and talk about the concerns that you're going. So anything that you're feeling like, how do I share this? This is your safe space to talk about.
What are the most common mental health problems that Indian moms go through after giving birth?
When we are pregnant, the Indian woman is treated as like this person who is the special star of the house. Suddenly, the baby is in the picture. Now that's great, but suddenly the baby is the star and nobody is actually focusing on what she is going through.
What is it that Indian moms are facing that could be worsening their postpartum mental health issues?
There's so much chaos with it, but somewhere they're feeling like nobody will get it. They're feeling misunderstood, they're feeling lonely, and you can see that. So all these are your signs that, okay, you know what, they need more help.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Modern Indian Parent Podcast, the podcast that is redefining parenting in Indian families. I am Rinie Gupta. I'm a pediatric sleep consultant and the co-host of this show. We release new episodes every Friday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, so be sure to subscribe and follow on your favorite platform. If you have been here before, I want to welcome you back. But if you're a new listener, especially if you're a mom who is about to give birth or has recently given birth, you are in for a treat as this is a wonderful episode to get started with. Today, we will be talking about postpartum mental health challenges, everything from postpartum blues to depression and anxiety, and how to deal with them all. Bollywood and Instagram have done a pretty horrible job at painting the picture of what you should expect after you give birth. You're expecting cute pictures and giggles and cuddles and all of those good things. And sure, they will be there. But let me let you in on a little secret that postpartum is messy. Not only you're going through 100 physical changes because you have gone through pregnancy and have given birth, it's also going to take a toll on your mental health. Postpartum can be filled with tears, anxiety, even anger. And of course, some of it is just normal emotions that all moms go through. But how do you know that it has gone from being a normal baby blues to actually going towards postpartum anxiety or depression where you need clinical help? Today, we have invited Siddhida Kabara, who's a registered award-winning psychologist and CEO of the Dayadao Center of Psychological Wellbeing, to talk to us about how is it that we can spot when is it that we are facing normal baby blues versus actual diagnosable problems like postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression. We're going to talk about the signs and symptoms you need to look for. We're going to talk about what are the things that even cause these issues in the first place. And then she will tell us some simple but actually really helpful strategies to help you cope with these feelings so that you can feel and show up as your best self. This is actually the second time that we're having Siddhida on this podcast because previously when we had her on, she spoke to us about how couples can navigate their relationship after having kids, everything from conflict resolution to regaining intimacy in their lives after having a child. I'm going to link this episode right below in the description as well as in this corner of the YouTube box so that you can go and watch that one too. And one of the reasons why I trust Siddhida so much to bring her on this platform twice is because she's not only a great psychologist, but she's also my therapist. And I have worked with her for the last 2 years and she has helped me navigate some very tricky phases of my life. And which is why you should directly hear from her on how to navigate this postpartum period, which can be quite difficult for a lot of moms. So without further ado, let's welcome Siddhida Kabara. Hi Siddhida, welcome to the Modern Indian Parent Podcast once again. I am super excited to have you here.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me back.
I'm so excited to have you to talk about this topic because you're right. People just don't think about this. When we are pregnant, we are suddenly the source of everybody's attention. Eat this, do this, don't do this, don't go here, don't sit like this, don't bend like this. You know, they're constantly focused on how we look, what we eat, what we are doing. It's all towards our physical health, right? Even after the baby is born, of course, the attention shifts to the baby, but still, it's all about the physical health. They're talking about breastfeeding and weight loss and belly binding and massaging. But what about the mental health? There is so much that women are going through, and there's so much that's happening inside their minds, which they are not talking about. Nobody's talking about it to them. And it's just like they're kind of like festering in it by themselves. So from your experience, can you tell me what are the most common like mental health problems that Indian moms go through after giving birth?
The first thing that I would talk about is the grief of losing who you were, right? And the anxiety and uncertainty of who you are going to be and how these parts will sustain together and overall आप कौन बनने वाले हो. So yeah, that in itself is such a individualistic journey and such a big journey. अब उसमें आप तड़का डालोगे family का, the should be's and the must be's. You know what? When we are pregnant, the Indian woman is treated as like this person who is the special star of the house. Suddenly, the baby is in the picture. Now that's great, but suddenly the baby is the star, and nobody is actually focusing on what she is going through. And now everybody just expects her to focus on the blessing. You've got a child, or the child is healthy, or kya child, right? So yeah, that transition from suddenly being in the center to nobody paying attention to you. Suddenly the husband is also the father first, right? That can be hard. So nobody around you, including yourself, is putting priority or giving priority to you. And considering what you're going through, it can lead to a lot of concerns from anxiety, self-esteem issues, body image issues, to the everyday things that you're doing. And come on, the lack of sleep. I mean, I think we can just talk about that as a different thing.
My God. So, I mean, you've brought out so many different factors that cause mental health challenges, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, and I feel like we need to unpack all of these. Tell us a little bit more about in terms of what could be going on inside our bodies that could be leading to us feeling like, oh my God, what's happening around us?
So this is again connected to the prepartum and the postpartum. Prepartum mein hormones are increasing. In layman terms, we'll not go into the names of them too much, but endorphins, dopamine, progesterone, everything has increased to a level to sustain the baby. Abhi, post this, suddenly there is a gap and sudden set down that is happening. Now the body is also trying to cope up. In the first 2 weeks, you do not have your own happy hormones which are producing to the extent that they should. Every time, for example, you're going into breastfeeding, yes, it leads to a feeling of goodness and it is also releasing a little bit of oxytocin, but it is also taking nutrients, okay, which in itself is a journey. But is pure process made biologically that sudden dip which happens, right? It takes your body some time to get back to the basic levels. उसके बाद भी it is going to be a journey because even after those basic levels, it's not enough. You are giving and giving and giving, and your body needs to produce more and more. So yeah, biologically in itself, it's a hard journey.
I know, I just think about like right after I gave birth, I remember that I was barely even to get off the bed. And that is when I had a vaginal delivery. Women who undergo C-sections, that's a major ass surgery. You know, if somebody gets a knee surgery, they're not expected to get off the bed for like 2 weeks. But right after you give birth, you are suddenly expected to be active and contributing and breastfeeding and changing diapers and doing all of those things. On top of that, you said we're experiencing this sudden crash. I think that's the only way to describe this, right? It's a crash in hormones, and you're dealing with all of this. But this is what's going on the inside. What have you seen in your work with these new moms from a societal perspective or from in a family setup? What is it additionally that Indian moms are facing that could be worsening their postpartum mental health issues?
अभी उसमें आते हैं आपने ये करना चाहिए. Is your milk enough? I think it is not enough. I think you need to do this. The gynec might tell you, the experts might tell you it is enough, but because people around you are telling you कि तुमने ये इतनी लेवल को खाना चाहिए, तुम एक ही लड्डू खा रहे हो, तुम्हारे बेबी के लिए 2 लड्डू जरूरी है. Now, while you're already struggling with the fact of, am I doing this right? Do I really know my job? You're still trying to figure it out, right? In that process, जब कोई ना कोई आके आपको ये, I don't even want to call it advice. I think I would call it more of unnecessary, unasked advice.
Nagging,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
unsolicited advice.
See, I'm not saying that all of it is just that. Yes, some Indian methods or some traditional methods have logic to it, But we always have to remember कि वो logic को आगे लेके जाना है. We cannot just be like, oh, 18th century में ये ऐसे होता था and we have to continue the same thing now. It cannot work. Even reproduction, even this magical, beautiful journey that women go through, even that is being somewhere controlled and used as a decision making power thing कि इसी रहेगा. We are the ones who will decide what you will do, how your child will brought up, because at the end, both of you belong to us. Not belonging in a good sense, belonging in a sense of being treated as an object.
Controlling sense. No, I completely, like, I feel this at a deep level. And the funny thing is, when I had given birth, we were in a COVID lockdown. I'm isolated in Singapore. And while I was missing having support of my parents-in-law or my parents, even, the one thing that I was not missing is being told what to do constantly, which I know a lot of moms have who have given birth after me, around parents. Of course, they have had the joy of having grandparents and other people around, but they've also had that stress of being constantly told what to do. I always give them this example that, would you go to a pediatrician who has never treated a child for 30 years? They have just never walked into a practice for 30 years. No, right? Then why is it that we wholeheartedly believe the advice of the elder generation when the last time they probably took care of a baby was 30, 35 years ago when we were babies? They did that 3 decades ago, and yet we keep thinking, no, what they are saying is right. Or even if we don't think what they are saying is right, we just follow it because we're like, who's going to create all this tension? And I feel that itself could be a cause of a postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, that I don't want to upset them, so I'm just going to do it because I don't know how else to express my concerns. I think this is a very common struggle that moms face.
I still remember this. A client came and they came from a space of, यार ये सब दिक्कतें हो रही है. I know I need to put up the boundaries. I know I need to say something. But कौन करेगा ये? I am going through my own journey, fighting this battle for myself, for my child. I do not have the energy to stand up and say that I'll not do this. You know what? Don't call these many relatives. Don't push me to eat this much, or don't take my child out in a particular environment. There comes a limit. So if I have to set a boundary, I would rather do it for my child. I'll say कि अच्छा मेरे बच्चे के लिए ये ठीक नहीं है तो मत करो. But when it comes to myself, it just becomes too much. And this thing, where it becomes too much and I start filtering out, yeah, I'll not take a stand for myself because it is not worth it. Once it is okay, twice it is okay, but then it becomes a habit and it starts sticking with us, right? Somewhere or the other, it starts hampering our confidence. Then we start getting into the zone of मुझे allowed नहीं है, you know, हमारे यहाँ चलता नहीं है. And we stop questioning it. I think that is one of the major reasons that we start going towards, anxiety and depression, because we start questioning things. It just becomes too much.
Yeah, I think you just get so set in those patterns. So it's important to set those boundaries early. But I also feel that the whole onus and responsibility of setting boundaries should not be on the mother. I feel
Agree.
this is a discussion that the mother and the father need to have during pregnancy and even after giving birth. I feel that the father needs to do that boundary setting, especially with his side of the family. They need to step in and do this, because if you put the whole thing on the mother, then she becomes the bad guy of the family, the bad daughter-in-law to blame, who doesn't want to follow everybody's advice. But that's not how it should be. You come across a lot of these words. There is baby blues, there's
Mhm.
postpartum anxiety, there's postpartum depression. I feel that while we have more awareness of what these are, we still don't quite understand these terms. Either we just don't know what it is, or sometimes they're just casually thrown around as well. So, as a psychologist, can you tell us what is baby blues? What is postpartum anxiety? What is postpartum depression? And how do you know what are you experiencing as a mom?
So see, when we have that crash of hormones, right? Now it's a very natural human response because of the crash of hormones. There are mixed emotions, there are ups and downs of emotions that is happening. You are going to feel more anxious, you're going to feel more angry, you're going to just not be so much in control of your own mental health and emotion. When this is happening, we can say that it is baby blues. But right now you're still functional. You're still able to understand, oh, you know what? I think this was irrational of me. I think this was too much. Let me take a deep breath. I'm able to get it. It lasts for a few weeks. So let's say it has been more than 2, 3 weeks. It has been a month. This feeling is not going away. your hormones are settled, the gynec has said that hormones are settled, things are actually falling in place, but you're still feeling sad. Okay, you're still feeling disconnected, you're still feeling a little bit of numbness, or maybe you're having crying spells. So here the biggest difference comes in. Now when everybody's seeing this, right? Yeah, especially moms who are seeing this, they might feel कि अरे यार ये तो मेरे साथ भी हो। डिफरेंस ये है कि आप फंक्शनल हो या डिसफंक्शनल हो। एज इन आपके क्राइम स्पेल्स हो रहे हैं, बट आर यू एबल टू कोप विद देम? Or is it making you so dysfunctional that after the spell you have just lost all the energy, you're not able to even look at the baby, and you can feel that okay, something is not right. I am not me. Then we go into the diagnosis part of depression and anxiety. Now coming to the words anxiety and depression, because we tend to use them so much together, right? What is the difference of how to differentiate? First thing, anxiety is more about the first thing that we talked about, the uncertainty. क्या होने वाला है? Am I doing a good job? Am I a good mother? Am I a perfect mother? Which again has a lot to do with how we are brought up, right? And it is more about the what ifs, and I feeling like I'm not ready for them or scared of them, or just feeling like it's too much. Depression is coming from a place of कि अच्छा anxiety तो हो ही रही है, but I'm just also feeling hopeless, helpless, overwhelmed, and just reaching that space of I don't know if I can take it anymore. Generally, anxiety and depression symptoms or the feelings might go hand in hand. But if we are going towards that it has been more than 2, 3 weeks, we are still having these spells. The intensity is very high, which makes us dysfunctional. Then absolutely we need to get it checked ASAP. Having said this, I also want to add in रुकने की जरूरत नहीं है। ये जो हमारा टेंडेंसी है ना, इट कम्स फ्रॉम आवर प्रीवियस जनरेशन की अच्छा जब तक हो सके खुद से हैंडल करो and then you take help. We don't have to do it. It is good to have that process in place, just like you have a lactation consultant, and I hope like a sleep consultant and nutritionist in place and a gynec in place. You should have a therapist in place. कि आपके pregnancy के journey में there is a safe space for you. Even in those first 2 weeks, you have that safe space where you can go and talk and vent out so that ये हो ही ना आगे. I'm not saying that if you're taking therapy from before, you will not have postpartum depression or anxiety. But I can definitely say that if you're doing this from before as a preventive measure, chances come ho jate hain. Your support skills are still already in place. It helps a lot.
My God, I think when you say when you're describing these symptoms, firstly for the baby blues, right? It puts you so much at peace because I think one thing that a lot of women experience but don't know how to explain is not having an instant connect with their baby. The very moment the baby is born, because of Bollywood and what it's just like you feel like, oh my God, you'll instantly fall in love with your baby and they will just be the moon and stars for you, but that may not happen, right? Like for me, for the first 2 to 3 weeks, I told my husband that I feel like I'm my baby's aunt who is here to change diapers, put baby to sleep, feed baby. But I wasn't feeling like the mother, and I felt so guilty about that. And on the surface, we don't show. We are taking happy pictures with the baby, just like an aunt would. The Masi would do the same thing. But that internal feeling that I am this baby's mother came much later. And I guess that was because of the baby blues. And I'm guessing a lot of women do face that. But going towards anxiety and depression is a whole different ballgame, right? So, okay, let's say as a mom, of course, if we are aware that this feeling of uncertainty, this feeling of sadness, hopelessness, that we're not able to shrug off beyond the 2, 3 week mark, it could be something serious. But what about like family members? So let's say if there is a dad watching this, what are some signs that they can look out for that they'll be like, when they see this in a new mom, they're able to spot that this person might be going through a mental health crisis and they need help?
First and foremost, because the mother is not able to control anything which is happening to her in general, there would be a lot of trying to control every small thing that is happening with the baby. ये चीज इसी तरीके से होनी चाहिए तो इसी तरीके से होनी चाहिए. If, for example, I decided to use these particular clothes today, I have to make sure that these are the clothes which are being used. And if it is not happening perfectly, then there is an outburst. So this overwhelming need to control what I can, that you will notice. So we will also notice that there is this insecurity wala feeling which is coming up. Now, that is very natural. You're going through so many changes, body image wise, confidence wise, losing parts of yourself. Feeling that insecurity, uncertainty, anxiety, natural. अब उसके बाद क्या होता है? That is your sign if the person is doing well or not. If the person is able to talk to you about it, right? They are feeling like you are their safe space. They are talking about it freely. This is a part of your normal baby blues, and it is going to be okay. But if the person is not able to talk about these things, आप जब उनसे बात करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, they are very closed off. So there is so much happening within, there's so much chaos within, but somewhere they are feeling like nobody will get it. Okay, they're feeling misunderstood, they're feeling lonely, and you can see that. So all these are your signs that okay, you know what, they need more help because while you might be doing your best to give them that safe space, it's not enough, and they need more.
As you're describing these signs and symptoms of PPA and PPD, I can't help but look back at my own journey. And I feel like I can relate so much to the signs of PPA, especially because I was very, very particular about how things were done for my daughter. I'm always like, scrutinizing every single thing down to exactly how the diaper has been put and how they're holding her for her feet. I used to get mad at people for not doing it correctly. I used to have a lot of intrusive thoughts about like if I do this तो ये हो जाएगा अगर वो ना करूंगी तो ये हो जाएगा मेरे बेबी के साथ. I used to keep waking up at night to check that if she's breathing or not. And I'm a very, very light sleeper already, but I used to get woken up by every single sound she made. And if she didn't make a sound, I was still waking up to check, like, is everything okay there? But one thing that I experienced that I felt very, very guilty about was that there were instances where I was actually mad at my baby. Like I'm talking full blown like anger. And I remember she was just about a month and a half old at that time, and it was middle of the night. It's like 3 a.m. and I'm trying to get her to sleep, and I've fed her and I've rocked her, and she just won't go to sleep. And from there, I just start like Googling at that point that, okay, you know what? They said, oh, if you put a baby in a stroller, you'll be able to get them to sleep. So at 4 in the morning, I put my baby in a stroller and I'm just walking around like a zombie in my locality with a crying baby. And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just walking and it's not working. And then I come back home and then I screamed at her. And I was just like, why are you doing this to me? Why? And I'm so, so mad. And I went banging on my husband's door because he was sleeping in the other room. And I said, I have given birth to a monster. I don't know. I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. And I felt like I still think back to that day. It has been 4 years since it has happened. And I still am ridden with guilt for feeling angry with a newborn baby. Is this normal? Would you call this a sign of postpartum anxiety, this mom rage that one can feel?
Let's imagine हम थोड़ा minor example लेंगे. It might feel like okay ये same situation है, but this is just for understanding. Let's say that you have a particular work to do, okay, and you have a PPT to make. Now you're not able to make the PPT. Let's say internet काम नहीं कर रहा है, कुछ तो दिक्कत आ रही है. You make the PPT, वो delete हो जाती है, and you're just so furious. You take your laptop and you want to just throw it away. Okay, you're like यार क्या चल रहा है? Now in that moment, are you actually angry with the laptop? Or are you actually angry with the situation and you're taking it out?
I mean, definitely we're angry with the situation. We don't hate the laptop. The laptop is not the problem, it's everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So even in that moment, right, when nothing is working out with the baby and we're feeling so much anger and we start feeling like we are feeling it for the baby. So when that guilt comes in, we have to first take a deep breath and remind ourselves that it's not the baby, it's the situation that has led to this. Control नहीं आ रहा है जहाँ पर कोई चीज काम नहीं कर रही है. That is what is making you angry. And yes, when we are taking out that anger on the baby, that is a sign that maybe we should take help so that we have safe space where we can figure out coping mechanisms ताकि ये वापस ना हो. See, once it is happening, it's a mistake, right? Once it has happened, let's make sure that next time it does not happen with the baby again, and we have other systems in place so that we can cope better and we can take out that frustration. So, to summarize it, feeling that frustration, feeling that anger, absolutely fine. But having that awareness, oh, you know what, it's not the baby, it's the situation, is important. And second of all, the moment I accept that this is about the situation, let me do something about that so that I do not take it out on the baby.
We're talking about postpartum anxiety, depression. We're talking about how to spot it. Now let's talk about how to get help. So if you see these signs in yourself, what would be the first step that you take to get help?
Start finding the right psychologist, right? And go to them. Now, finding the right therapist for you in itself is a big journey. It's like finding the lock and the key connect, right? this is the right person for me. We are not expecting that आप पहली बार जाओगे and it is going to be fine. So don't get discouraged even if the first time does not feel like you're not feeling that click. That is why I always recommend that do not start when you're already in that space of needing help. You need to have these systems in place beforehand. When you're pregnant, start trying to find the right psychologist for yourself. See if you're feeling that connect and click with them, right? Because setting that system up, building that rapport is also going to take time. Because when you are going through your postpartum, it's the most vulnerable. You do not want to be exploring and you do not want to be feeling like यार इनसे connect नहीं हो रहा है अब वापस try करो already took too much effort I don't have it in me. So that's the first step. Second of all, let's say you're not able to do this or you do not know anyone. Talk to friends who might. You will always see कि एक तो खुद से या किसी और support system से you'll find the right person. Finding that safe space for yourself is important. Starting that journey for yourself is important. There's a huge part of you which is going to be feeling कि is it really worth it? I already have so much on my plate. छोड़ो ना, हो जाएगा, कर लेंगे. So please remember, it is for yourself, and at the end, it is you who has to take that first step. But once you take that first step, it's going to be good. I promise.
I absolutely agree that, in addition to just looking for a good gynecologist and pediatrician, you need to be looking for a psychologist, you need to be looking for a lactation specialist, a sleep consultant. I feel these are certain contacts you need to have on speed dial because you're not going to be wanting to shortlist which professional to work with while you're in the thick of things and you have no bandwidth left for yourself. But you see, Siddhida, for you and I, you're a psychologist. I have been doing therapy with you for almost 2 years now at this point. We know what goes on in a therapy session. We know how therapy is so important to kind of untangle the knots in your brain and get the help that you need. But what if somebody's listening to this episode for the first time and they have no idea what therapy is and how it can help them in this whole postpartum phase? How would you describe therapy to them?
Therapy is a safe, confidential space, a non-judgmental space where you can come and talk about the concerns that you're going through. Right? So anything that you're feeling like, पता नहीं ये मैं लोगों को कैसे बताऊं, or how do I share this? This is your safe space to talk about it. So imagine karo, it's like you have coffee at home and you have coffee outside. Coffee at home can be great if you know how to make it in a particular manner. If you're trained in making a certain kind of coffee which you like, that's perfect. But what if somebody outside can do it for you when you are going through your own journey, when you cannot do it for yourself, right? So basically, what I'm trying to say is having a safe space which is curated for you, customized for you, as you need it.
Just talking through things can help a lot.
Yeah.
Are there certain exercises as well that you might tell new moms to do even when they're out of therapy sessions? Could you give us an example of some exercises that are very helpful that moms can do when they are facing situations in which they're feeling very anxious or really low in the postpartum period?
One is therapy. Second is trying to create the safe space for yourself even outside the therapy setup, right? What do we mean by this? Starting small things. When this new journey is starting for you in the postpartum period, it takes over everything. It's like 24/7, you're just involved and absorbed in that. Finding some time for yourself, very, very important. Finding some me time where you're just yourself. You're not the mother, you're not the wife, you're nobody. You're just, for example, you're Rinie. And in that moment, you're just you. It can be sitting in the balcony and having a cup of chai, having coffee with your plants, looking at the sky, something like that. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. In the beginning, it is going to make you feel very anxious, very overwhelmed because there are too many thoughts running in your mind. So it might feel like, यार नहीं ये तो मुझे help नहीं कर रहा है इससे ज़्यादा anxiety. So give it some time. That's one thing to do. Second, journaling can help, but I'll be also honest and practical. If you're in that stage, you don't have the time to write. It's okay. Just make a WhatsApp group of your own. Start recording audio notes where you're venting out with yourself, so you can go back to it. Right? These are some basic things. More importantly, apart from this, everybody has their go-to things. Right? Somebody might like, for example, doing yoga. Somebody might like doing meditation. Somebody might like listening to music and just in that moment taking deep breaths. Find what is your thing which makes you feel good. Start doing it and take deep breaths while doing it. Right? But what to do when you are in that moment, when you're feeling anxious, when you're angry. Let's just take the example you gave, right? In that moment, you're like, I have tried everything. Why are you not going to sleep? First thing, take a moment. Ask your partner to take over. That please take over. Right now, I need a moment for myself. Go into another physical space. Take a deep breath. Right? We underestimate the importance of deep breaths. It can actually, take our overstimulated system and make it a calmer one in that moment. Do that. Second thing to do is reframe immediately. So reframing is something we work a lot on in therapy. कि आपको उस moment में लग रहा है that why is it that this baby is not going to sleep? I'm so angry. Okay, am I really angry with the baby or am I just angry? If I'm just angry, let me take a moment. Let me do things which help me when I'm angry so that I can calm down. Now the question comes, how would you know what questions to ask yourself to reframe? That is where therapy can help you to find the right questions for you.
Because you can go through these scenarios and discuss them with your therapist. Something that we have worked on in our therapy sessions is that we think about potential scenarios that may occur. We talk about them in advance. We think about the kind of responses that we can try to have to get the best possible outcome in a situation like that. Because you, like you said, this whole mom rage thing, I didn't just face it once, I faced it multiple times. But had I had the tools to know what to do after the first time, I would have probably managed the subsequent times much better. Tools that you have given right now, even though they might be general tools, sometimes simple things like this itself can help moms who may not have the financial ability or the freedom to get therapy. Maybe just listening to this podcast and just getting these simple techniques in place can help a lot, because I feel these are almost preventive measures. If you ask me, that if I had all of these things in place, it's possible that things may have not gotten as bad. Just carving out that 10-15 minutes for yourself, taking deep breaths. All of us are always in this like rush to get things, and when you are with a baby, you're rushing even more because you're trying to fulfill their needs in split seconds. You don't want to let them cry for even a minute. In this rush, you totally forget that you're just like in overdrive all day long. As a sleep consultant, I'm doing like a newborn sleep class, okay? And I'm telling them, like, okay, I'm going to tell you the 5 S's of newborn sleep. And be like, you know what? I'm going to give you one more S, which is self regulate. And that came totally from personal experience, that it's okay to safely set down your baby in a crib, step outside, take a minute to self regulate. I feel we just don't do this. We keep adding fuel to the fire. You are dysregulated, baby is dysregulated, and nobody is helping anybody. I feel in these scenarios, it's better to just step away, self regulate, then you come and show up in a better capacity. And of course, sometimes you may have your husband around to take over. Sometimes that may not be the case. Sometimes it could just be you and baby. It's okay. Lay your baby down for a couple of minutes. Few minutes of crying, 10 minutes of crying is not going to do any harm to your baby. I am telling you this, and I want to give parents that reassurance. But in those 10 minutes, if you get extremely dysregulated, some actual harm could come out of it, where you're completely out of your senses at this point because of sleep deprivation, because of stress, because of hormonal changes. So that's why it's just like it's okay to take a moment, step back, use the techniques that Siddhida has just told us about, and then go in with a calmer mindset. So thank you for sharing these techniques with us.
Yeah, just adding into that, what you said, right? See, just like for example, if I have a pet dog, barking is their language. Not every bark means that something is wrong. Same way, in the beginning, when babies are crying is their language. So just because the baby is crying does not mean that something is wrong, and the baby is going to pick up on your energy. So if you are not regulated, if you are not feeling calm, it's not going to help. You taking a moment to calm yourself is important, not just for you but also for the baby. Very, very important.
I think that's a beautiful note to end this podcast on, because, we have gone through the whole cycle of spotting this and understanding what all these postpartum mental health issues are, how to spot them, and actually how to practically, but in simple ways, work on them. And I think it's such a privilege to hear from Siddhida. And I will really tell anybody who's listening to this podcast, if you are a new mom going through this, or you know a new mom who may or may not be going through a mental health crisis, please share Siddhida's contact with them because I can vouch for her as a new mom myself. Because, like she said, finding that fit is very important. And she and her team of psychologists could do that for you. Okay, so I'm going to drop all her details in the podcast description below. Get in touch with her if you feel like you need that help. All right. And yeah, and maybe we will have another round in which we'll talk about to Siddhida about so many things, because she's got this wealth of information to share in every aspect of life. Thank you so much for being with us today, Siddhida.
Thank you so much for the invite. I mean, you know, it's not just my podcast. Even I listen to all the modern Indian parent podcasts because they are lovely. The insights that they're bringing to the table are so relatable. So yeah, I hope everybody who is listening to this will have a good time. If you have any questions, right, you can just get back, and I'll absolutely do my best to also answer that.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to welcome you again on this podcast.